Good day once again. Today we are to continue our discussion on records and information management, but this time we are to talk about intra-office communication. What are these ones? Ano-ano tong mga intra-office communication na mga ito? But of course, before that, let us know first the importance of communication. Napakahalaga po ng communication lalo na sa isang organization because this is the binding force. Without communication, magkakasira-sira, lalo na without good communication, the organization would be in chaos or magkakaroon ng riot within. So, communication is the vehicle on which businesses moves. Without communication, there would be no delegation of information and with that, hindi magfa-function ng maayos ang isang kumpanya, ang isang workplace, ang isang organization, or even schools, and all other things. That's why communication is very, very much important. The bottom line is that it is very much essential for businesses to be efficient. The essence of efficient business models, that is a very, very good communication, a very, very good communication relations among and within the people in a specific organization. Now we have basically two types of intra-office communication. These are oral or written, in which under written we have here circulars and memorandums or memos, as well as orders and notes. We will be discussing the difference of or the differences of these ones later on. And please do note that the type used or the type to be used would be depending on the situation, the importance, and the urgency of the information or the file to be relayed. First, we have here oral communication, and these are the most commonly used mode. Ito yung pag-uusap-usap lang. This includes telephonic, face-to-face, and others. Body language also plays a role as well. This is a highly efficient type of intra-office communication for small groups because you would just do a face-to-face or you would have telephonic messages, as well as it plays a key role in bigger groups as well. For written, it is very much needed for the communication to be official as it facilitates a reference for future activities, and it can be read at any convenient time. Ito yung kulang doon sa oral. Hindi mo pwedeng ulitin yon unless of course you have recorded it. It's also giving greater clarity than that of the oral kasi pag written, pwede mong ulit-ulitin, pwede mong i-analyze. But for oral, it's on the spot. Pag narinig mo, alangan namang papaulit mo na naman yung conversation na yon. And written communications are always used for annexures. Kaya nga ginagamit itong references kung merong importanteng bagay. So, under written, meron tayong tinatawag na circulars and memorandums. Under circulars, this is what we call a communication within a circle. That is why it's called circulars. An example of this one is the information regarding the staffing or the change of timing. Circulars are very specific. They have specific instructions and guidelines which may contain direct messages, notices, new policies, and new rules. And this should be very brief, should be short, and should be precise. Kaya nga sabi dito, it contains specific instructions or guidelines. It is essentially a letter containing some important information that is distributed to a number of people. Later on, I will be giving you For my students, I'll be sending you a copy of this one's an example of a circular for you to be guided when you will be writing your own version of circular. And before that, before we proceed to memos, circulars also can be used to advertise your company, to advertise your products as well, because it could be given, these circulars could be given to different people, not just within your company, but also it could be given outside. It could be posted on social medias as well. For memorandums or memos, simply memos, this means to mention. Now, what is the difference between a memo and a circular? A circular could go beyond the organization, but the memos only they are only intended for the organization or within the organization. These memorandums are written statements for informing about a particular matter. It is used as an official record. As I've stated earlier, I'll be giving such examples on your Google Classroom for my students. For those who wanted to have a copy of the samples, also you may comment on the comment section below for me to reach you also. We also have here office orders and notes. These office orders are downward communications, though circulars also and memorandums are to be considered downward communications. Orders are literally downward communications, no? It is simple, highly concise, and is very, very formal. The use of it is used for official declarations, promotions, terminations, and others. This could also be used as annexures. For notes, these are informal communication. This is used for horizontal communication. And when we talk about horizontal communication, this could just be within a particular function group or within a certain group of people. The use of this is to obtain or convey information during absence of oral. So if somebody is absent when there is a meeting, for example, or oral meeting, then notes could be given to that person for him or her to be informed of what has been transpired during that said oral meeting. Notes varies in terms of layout and format depending on the company, depending on the organization. Okay, so notes could just be written in a piece of paper, as what have been stated in here. These are informal types of communications. Now, with this one, how would we maximize intra-office communication? Siyempre, unang-una, we have to communicate bearing the 7 C's in mind. What are these 7 C's? Okay, before that, almost every day we spend our time communicating. We write emails, we facilitate meetings, we participate in conference calls, we create reports, devise presentations, we debate with our colleagues, we talk to our teachers, especially online because of this pandemic. So, how can we communicate with these 7 C's? When we use these 7 C's, we make sure that we communicate in the clearest, most effective way possible. So, according to the 7 C's, communication needs to be, what are these? Okay, ito na yung 7 C's. Clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. So, unahin natin. Number 1, when we communicate, it should be clear. When writing or speaking to someone, be clear about your goals or the message. Dapat sabihin natin, The purpose in communicating with this person should be clear. If you're not sure, then your audience wouldn't be sure either. So, dapat clear yung message. To be clear, try to maximize the number of ideas in each sentence. Sabi nga, one idea, one sentence, one idea, one paragraph when we write. Para hindi magkaroon ng spider web ng ideas within a sentence. Make sure also that it's easy for your reader to understand your meaning. Hindi yung they will be reading between the lines just to create or just to uh, get the picture behind what you are talking about. Information and actions are required and must be clear so the reader has the information to take action. That is clarity or being clear. Pangalawa, concise. When you're concise in your communication, you stick to the point. So when we stick to the point, very brief lang siya, direct. Your audience doesn't want to read 6 sentences when you could communicate your message within just 3. Pag gumagawa ka ng communication letter, hindi yung pasikot-sikot. If there are adjectives or filler words na hindi kinakailangan, we should eliminate these words like yung sasabihin mo natin na, for instance, diretso mo na. You see, definitely, kind of, literally, basically, or I mean, yung mga ganong words, if it's not needed, then we should not put that. Okay? Then, wag nating ulit-ulitin. Pag, sabi nga, if it's clear, then maganda na, wag mo nang ulit-ulitin yung point mo. Number 3, it should be concrete. When your message is concrete, then your audience has a clear picture of what you are telling them. Dapat kumpleto kung ano ang details na gusto mong sabihin sa kanila. There are details also, but it should not be too many para maging solid ang ating message. Number 4, correctness. Ibig sabihin, the information that is written on your communication should be correct. It should fit your audience. Kanino ba ang mga yon? And correct communication is also error-free communication. Do the technical terms you use fit your audience levels of education or knowledge? So, dapat kung ano ang level of education or level of knowledge ng ating audience or clients, yun dapat yung level ng words na gagamitin natin. Sabi nga, on the part 1 of the discussion, huwag tayong gumamit ng mga malalalim na salita or the highfalutin words so as that we would be impressing our audience, because if they will not understand your message or the content of your communication, wala din lang, magkakaroon ng miscommunication, magkakaroon ng gap na tinatawag between you and your audience. If possible, you have to check your writing for grammatical errors as well, and please remember the spelling also. And ang pinaka-importante dito, tama ba yung mga pangalan, the spelling, the title of this person na pinagsusulatan natin. Kasi yung iba medyo conscious sila on receiving letters, tas wrong spelling yung pangalan nila, they would misinterpret that as another name or another person, diba? So we should be mindful of that. Number 5, it should be coherent. The communication should be coherent. When your communication is coherent, it's logical. Magkakakonect lahat ng points mo doon and relevant doon sa pinag-uusapan nyo na topic. As well as may flow, may consistency ang flow of information or the flow of text. The tone is also consistent. Number 6, completeness. In a complete message, the audience has everything they need to be informed and, if applicable, to take action. You have to include in there relevant information such as contact names, dates, times, locations, and so forth para hindi na naman magkakaroon ng miscommunication. If they would be if the information is not clear, then they would be asking you again. And then, sabi natin, pag oral, hindi siya masyado. So, we have to be, mm, yung isesend natin na letter should be complete. Kasi pag oral, magkakaroon ng miscommunication. And lastly, we have the courtesy. When we write or when we give communication letters, there should be courtesy. Courteous communication is friendly, open, and honest. There are no hidden insults or passive-aggressive tones. You keep your reader's viewpoint in mind and you're empathetic to their needs. Be courteous at all times when you send letters. Sometimes, yung 7 C's natin, napapalitan yung ibang C's, dinadagdag yung tinatawag nating credibility, or yung this is especially important when communicating with an audience that doesn't know much about you. Though, so you should be credible, no? And of course, creativity. Does your message communicate creatively? Creative communication helps keep your audience engaged. So, very catchy yung pagbibigay mo ng information. So another thing aside from remembering the 7 C's, okay? So in case of written communications, we have to make sure that the communication reach the intended personnel in time, okay? Why? Because this is to avoid the gaps when, for example, if there's a scheduled meeting and then mas nauna pang natapos yung meeting kaysa napunta sa kanya yung letter which is supposedly to be delivered today, hindi na siya naka-attend ng meeting, for example. So, kailangan if you are the personnel in charge for this one, you have to see to it that the communication letter or the communication or the information should reach the intended personnel in time. Official documents also should be filed and preserved. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, when you go to an office, for example, meron silang tinatawag na logbook. So within that logbook, andun yung time, kung saan ka pumunta doon, ano yung isasubmit mo, or your name muna, the time, the date, your name, from which office, the purpose of going to that certain office, kung magbibigay ka ng letter or what, and then your signature. So as that they would be keeping track of the record. Okay? And it should also be filed. If you are the receiving personnel, you should file this one. Kaya nga meron tayong tinatawag na filing and indexing. That is discussed on part 1. And you have to preserve this one. Kasi, going back again to the first one, if you are the receiving officer, you have to see to it that the communication given to you should be forwarded to the personnel na kung saan naka-address ang letter, for example. And tone and language needs to be checked. Mapapag-usapan natin mamaya on receiving and signing of documents, courtesy. Office courtesies ang tawag to. Okay? So, the other methods on intra-office communication or inter-office communication, we also allow the use of instant messaging, text messages as well. Social media is very much powerful today. So, Messenger, pwedeng sabihin mo doon. The video calls, video conferences, Google Meets, Zoom application, yun yung ginagamit for intra or inter-office communications as well. Or meron tayong service also. Some organizations set up a service such as Yammer. Okay, so most of us are not familiar with this Yammer. Some also create a LinkedIn group kung saan sila nag-upload lahat ng file which could be accessed by the group. Some also have Google accounts, no? Using their mails, meron silang shared storage, Google account shared storage, no? They also use project management tools and customer management tools. So these are some informations or the techniques used for intra and inter-office communications. But for now, because of the pandemic, ang kadalasang ginagamit is instant messaging as well as the use of the social media, the internet, specifically for this ones, for project management tools. That is why they have Facebook pages, companies, organizations, schools, and all others have Facebook pages for them to inform their users or their constituents of the things that is or that are happening within the organization, for example. The flow of documents. It is very much important to know the flow of documents so as that there should be no confusion on who will be receiving this type of documents and who shall be responsible. Before knowing the flow of documents, we should first know the organizational structure present in an organization. What is an organizational structure? Organizational structure is defined as the system of how tasks are to be allocated, who reports to who has the authority, and what are the coordinating mechanisms and interaction patterns to ensure that work is done. It creates order by arranging various parts of the organization, the workflows, the reporting relationships, and the communication channels. It promotes coordination of activities and performance results to achieve the organizational strategies. And now let us take this organizational structure as our basis. So we have here a triangle with three divisions. We have here the top level management, we have the middle level management, and of course the lower level management. Now, communication in organizations could be coming from the top level management going down, or it could be coming from the middle level management going up and down, or it could be coming from the lower level management going up. So, for the flow of communications, it should be uh, known that it depends on the type of communication you are to be sending. For example, if it is an office order, if it's an order concerning the majority or the whole of the parts of the organization, then that should be coming from the top level management. So, for example, pag may sulat siya, pag may memo, or pag may office order coming from the top level management, ito yung mga may-ari, mga stakeholders, mga shareholders, pwedeng idadaan yan sa middle level management through the Office of the Human Resource or yung sa HR bago ibababa sa lower level management or within the middle management going to the HR and then i-spread niya ito to the different heads of the functional groups or functioning groups or structural groups, and sila ang magsasabi sa mga tauhan nila under the lower level management. Let's take for example, in a university, pag may president's memo or office memo coming from the president, mauuna syempre dyan from the office of the president, and then ibababa papunta sa HR, ifa-file ni HR, and then i-furnish niya ang mga copies through the different offices. And from these offices, ibibigay nila ito sa mga uh, personnels below them or under them. For example, ibibigay niya sa deans, and the deans would give it to the chairpersons, and then the chairpersons would give it to the faculty. Pwedeng ganun ang flow. Hindi pwedeng from the president, diretso na sa uh, mababa. Not unless if it's a notice, a personalized notice, a personalized memo, no? Na andun talagang specified yung tao. Unless if it's specified. But if it concerns the whole, then merong process dyan. How about yung sa middle level management? Kumbaga sa isang office mismo, pwede silang magbigay ng memo or circular for that matter na ibibigay nila sa uh, mga personals below them. Pag may mga letters naman or communications coming from the lower level management, let's say for example, an employee, pag may ipapasign siyang memo, uunahin niya yung pinakamababang magpapas pinakamababang yung taong may pinakamababang posisyon. For example, uunahin niya magpasign kay for example, clearance, magpapasign muna siya kay chairperson, then going to the dean, then going to the HR, then the furnished copy to the President's Office. Yung mga ganun ba? So, meron tayong tinatawag na flow of documents. Hindi yung may ibabypass tayo. The flow of documents depends also on the internal structure or yung sometimes meron silang na device. Makikita natin meron tayong tinatawag na citizens charter kung ano yung flow of documents. Now, please take note na pag napunta sa office nyo ang isang document, do not shelve it, do not put it under the drawer. You have to take action for it, lalo na pag urgent yon. So yun yung tinatawag nating flow of documents. Now, ito yung sinasabi natin kanina na office courtesy on receiving and sending documents. This is one of the 7 C's in communication. When we receive, syempre, let's be courteous at all times. We have to entertain clients. Maano ba naman na mag-greet tayo ng good morning or mag-greet tayo ng good afternoon or good day, welcome? Ano po ang sadya natin? What is our purpose coming here? How can I assist you? Mga ganyan. And when we send documents also, let us also observe proper courtesy. The correct spelling of names. We have to be credible sa ginagawa natin. We have to verify the exact address. As well as, pag gumagawa tayo ng communication, dapat hindi siya yung paiba-iba ng tono, or the tone should be, what do you call this one? Dapat ang tone natin is hindi yung nagagalit na tono, hindi yung nangangaral na tono, especially pag ang ginagawa natin ay formal letters. Okay? So, that is on sending documents. On sending and receiving documents, we should observe proper courtesy. Magpaalam muna tayo. So, for example, if you will be going to other offices for signing, magpaalam ka muna. Please state your purpose. Kaya dapat alam na alam mo ang gagawin mo before ka pumunta doon sa office na yon. State your purpose, state your agenda, and talk nicely. Yun naman ang pinaka-importante. You have to talk nicely. And that's, of course, the second part of the records and information management topic, and this part discusses the intra-office communication, how to do intra-office communications. Okay, so for your activity, for my students hearing or watching this, your activity would be creating a memo, creating a circular, and creating an office order. So I'll be sending to you on our class, our Google Classroom. I'll be sending it there, the samples for you to base your activities. For those who still wanted to do these activities, you can submit it here. Just put it on the comment section below. Then we'll try to talk about those ones. Okay, so that would be all. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned something about this discussion, and see you on the next. Thank you very much.